It is better to light one candle than to curse the darkness.
Hello, friends. I'm Ray Bolger, and I'm here to help present this Christopher program. Now, here is Father James Keller, founder of the Christophers.
Ray, it's always a delight to see you and to hear you. And I'm so glad you're going to start this program for us, because you told me you had a good start.
Well, Father, I've got something here that I think that I don't know whether it belongs with the Christophers or not, but it is a story. And I'd like to hear what comments that you'll make about this at the end. This is a story about an expectant father. And I don't mean a father of the cloth. Now, here is a man, and this actually happened, Father. It happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I read this story in a newspaper, and I thought it was very, very interesting. Here is this expectant father, and he is so worried about this whole situation that he's just beyond himself. He just doesn't know what to do. Then suddenly comes a time when it looks like the baby is going to be. And then he just gets so excited, he just dashes downstairs, and he gets in his car, and then he can't get the car started, and he runs back into the house, and he calls the police department. He says, I'm going to have a baby, and I've got to get to the hospital right away. And he said, I'm going down and start my car. If it'll start, will you send somebody out here to help us? So, of course, the police department sent out this patrol car with the sirens and everything else, and he finally got the car started and dashed madly down through the streets of Tulsa, Oklahoma, toward the hospital with the sirens going and blowing and blowing and blowing and sirens going, and he knew then that he was going to make it. And suddenly he turned and looked around in the car, and lo and behold, he had left the expected mother at home. Now, this is no way to have a baby. So anyway, he just... with very great foresight, he summoned the policeman, and he told him, he says, turn around, go back, and they decided something was wrong, and they followed his signal, and he went back home, picked up his wife, and a very normal thing happened after that. Everything seemed to calm down. When he got the wife in the car, and they drove at a very good pace to the hospital, the baby was delivered, and the whole story turned out all right. Now, I wonder what you would say about this story.
Well, I could go for an hour on that, because I really think that's what's happening in the world today. You get so excited about the incidentals, you leave the main thing right at home.
Oh, that's a wonderful comment. It's so true, Father.
Well, that's very true. And thank you, Ray Bolger. Well, friends, that's an amusing and almost far-fetched story, but still it carries with it a lesson that is particularly applicable to this Christopher program. What happened to the nervous husband is a reminder of what can happen to anybody if essentials are overlooked. Among these fundamentals can be listed a burning desire to honor God, to provide for the spiritual and temporal betterment of all men, and also to develop more fully our own creative powers. True excellence in these matters will come only if we pay close attention to hard, unselfish work, and if we refuse to quit when the going gets rough. This pursuit of excellence quite naturally requires more than wishful thinking. As Sir Joshua Reynolds once said, excellence is never granted to man, but as the reward of labor. Well, in addition to work, a noble purpose and dedication must play a role in this overall picture. Throughout history, those who have worked for the benefit of mankind have usually paid the high price of losing themselves in order to win for everybody. The Lord himself paid the highest price in all history when he died on the cross that all might be saved. Now, today, our guest is Mr. John Gardner, President of the Carnegie Corporation and President of the Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. He underlined this thought in the following statement: the religious precept that you must lose yourself to find yourself is no less true at the secular level. No one who has observed the devoted scientist in his laboratory can doubt the spiritual rewards of such work. The same is true of anyone who is working towards goals to present the highest values of society. Now, let us have a visit with Mr. Gardner. Mr. Gardner, it's very good to have you here, and the program is yours.
Well, it's a great pleasure for me to be here, Father Keller, and in the book which I wrote recently, one of the points I stressed most emphatically was the need for a widespread striving toward excellence, and I really do mean widespread. I mean that the fate of our society depends upon the performance of individual Americans, all of us. Now, I know that this emphasis on what the individual can do is very much in the spirit of the Christophers.
Well, we're delighted to have you because I think so many people have admired what you've done, and especially in your book, Excellence. And so that our audience may have a little idea of what's in the book and get a copy for themselves, why I've asked Ms. Eleanor Smith of the Brooklyn Public Library to come here with us and just give a 2 or 3 minute summary of the book. Would you, Eleanor, please?
Yes, Father, I'll be glad to. And I want to hold up this book so everyone can see it and remember it. The title, Excellence. Can we be equal and excellent too? The author, John W. Gardner. Along toward the end of the book, Mr. Gardner says that he once asked a highly regarded music teacher what was the secret of his extraordinary success with students. The teacher said, "First, I teach them that it is better to do it well than to do it badly. Many have never been taught the pleasure and pride in setting standards and then living up to them." This, it seems to me, gives a general idea of what this book is all about. But more specifically, this provocative volume is a call to action so that concern for individual fulfillment will become a national preoccupation. Mr. Gardner believes that in a free society such as ours, every person must have some kind of excellence within his reach. At the present time, although we pay lip service to this ideal, we do not act on it. In order to achieve excellence, we must have standards, and this is the key word in this book. And Mr. Gardner points out that in our national life, there are a good many things which are inimical to standards. Laziness, complacency, the desire for a fast buck, the American fondness for shortcuts, reluctance to criticize slackness are a few that he names. He said that these weaknesses must be overcome, but they won't be overcome by the false values we seem to have today. One of these is the belief that everyone has the right to a college education. Mr. Gardner insists that everyone does not have the right to a college education, any more than everyone has a right to run the 4-minute mile. Yet everyone has the right to pursue excellence according to his own abilities and to achieve a full measure of dignity and worth as a human being. He outlines very cogently some steps which can be taken to guide young people to this end, whether their talents lead them to higher education, vocational training, or to a job once they've finished high school. Everything Mr. Gardner has to say makes sense. And his publishers are so right. His publishers, incidentally, are Harper Brothers, when they say that this book is a book for parents and teachers, for citizens, and for everyone who cares about the future of our society. I highly recommend to you this most readable and important book, Excellence, by John W. Gardner.
Well, Mr. Gardner,
Well, you know, we all say that we love freedom and justice, and I'm sure that we do. Certainly we would not be happy, any of us, in a society characterized by injustice and slavery. But I think we forget that a free and just society is created by the hard, stubborn, faithful efforts of men and women who believe very deeply in these ideals. And if the efforts cease, freedom and justice won't last very long. I think we forget that a society is not like a monument which, once built, can stand untended for generations. A society isn't built and then left standing. A society is recreated, reshaped, remade, day in and day out, for good or ill, by the efforts of all of us. And that means each individual American. In other words, it's up to you and to me and to all Americans as individuals. But we know enough about ourselves to know that we'll evade that responsibility if we possibly can.
it's human nature.
It's an old human failing. The average citizen loves to talk about what Mr. Kennedy should be doing to make this a better country. He does not like to talk about what he should be doing to make it a better country. I always think of a woman I once knew whose loving and charitable impulses toward her fellow humans was in direct proportion to how far removed they were from her own life. She she treated her own children rather miserably, but she always gave money to the local orphanage. She was quite selfish in her behavior toward her neighbors, but she worried terribly about disaster victims in other parts of the United States. She really had virtually no sympathy for her husband's troubles, but a famine in China would practically dissolve her in tears. Well, we all have a little of that in us.
That's right.
And this is why I'm inclined to be rather down to earth in judging virtue. When a man tells me that he's religious, I want to know whether he remembers his religion on Monday morning.
That's right.
And when he tells me that he loves mankind, I want to know how he gets along with his neighbors. But the thought I would like to leave today is that it doesn't matter what you're doing in this life. You may be a scientist, or you may be a department store clerk, or you may be wholly preoccupied with bringing up your own children. Whatever you do, you can do it well or do it badly. And if you play your role in life well, your greatest reward will not be that others respect you, though they will, but that you'll respect yourself. And that's a priceless outcome.
Very good. Well, very good, Mr. Gardner. Well, friends, you've just heard from Mr. Gardner and the presentation of his book by Mrs. Eleanor Smith. The book, again, is Excellence by John W. Gardner. And in whatever pursuit you follow, and to whatever degree of excellence you aspire, remember, you are always in God's presence. That you personally are doing something to shape your eternity by every thought, prayer, word, and deed. Your whole life is bound to take on a new purpose and meaning if you have this big objective. Yes, you will develop an inner strength that will add force to all that you think, say, and do. Recall frequently the words of Christ, "Seek first the kingdom of God and its justice, and all these things shall be added unto you." Yes, you came from God, and one day, sooner or later, you will go back to God to render an account of the fleeting years of your life. Center your pursuits in those things which will have lasting effects for all eternity. And if you do, if you live, as Mr. Gardner emphasized, to the fullest, live in an excellent way, pursue excellence in your own atmosphere, you're bound to reach out to the world is bound to be better because you've been in it. In the Christophers, we have no organization, no memberships, no meetings, no dues. Why? Because we want to focus attention on what you personally can do with God's help to change the world for the better. And furthermore, we provide Christopher notes. We send them now to 1.25 million people. You may have them by simply sending we could have them without any charge by simply sending a postcard to the Christophers, New York, 17, New York. Next week at the same time and on the same station, it'll be our privilege, please God, to bring you another Christopher program. In conclusion, don't forget the pursuit of excellence. God bless you and keep you. Thank you for being with us.